I went to Washington to work, to Chicago rather, in the late 70s to work for a year at Argonne National Laboratory. Um, that, I think, was one of the times I became aware of the possibilities, but really it was when we went to the
So when we came back
DC.
from, yeah.
When we went to DC, that really got my interest. DC is a candy store for historians. The DAR has their library there and their headquarters.
And the archives.
The National Archives is there, and there are the Alexandria, Arlington, Virginia has libraries like that. And it's very rich in history, and I really sparked my interest in it there.
I would go back. We had an apartment in Washington D.C. where we lived, but I would go back, and I would go out and see all these museums everywhere. Every day I go to a museum. Richard says, "Well, didn't you go there yesterday? There's no reason why you should go back." I says, "Richard, they're free." "Oh, I'll go wherever you want." And so then I told him, I says, "You've got to go to the archives. You would be amazed." And he, "Well, maybe." So the next time I went back, he says, "Francie, you've got to go see the archives." And that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Were you interested in history before that, or was it that exposure to DC that?
On the timeline, I mentioned Argonne. That was a little bit, I think, out of step. I was working at General Atomic, and I had the chance to go to Argonne for a year for sort of it was then the Atomic Energy Commission. It's now the Department of Energy. Was sponsoring people from industry to come to work in one of the national laboratories. It's sort of an exchange business. And I had the chance to do that for a year at Argonne National Laboratory, and we made some very good friends there. We rented the house, went back to Argonne, found a home in what was a suburb called Burr Ridge, which was right next to Hinsdale, which is the swanky county, if you will, west of Chicago. And Burr Ridge was close enough that we could.
They were in the same school district.
Yeah, in the same, right. But I came back from that and made a number of friends. And then later, I continued to work at General Atomic. And later, when I retired, when did we go to?
84.
In 84, I retired from General Atomic and took a job at the DOE, didn't I? No.
You started a company with
I'm sorry, that's right. That's another part of my.
You've had a very.
When I left General Atomic, I went to Atlanta, and we founded a company called Theragenics. Actually, it was called Nuclear Medicine Incorporated. And we were developing cancer cures for brain cancer, prostate cancer, and liver cancer, using 3 different radioactive isotopes. And like so many startup companies whose eyes are bigger than their purse, we ended up concentrating only on the prostate cancer and developed a treatment for it called interstitial brachytherapy, which means they're tiny little needles that are stuck in the prostate that are radioactive, and they cure prostate cancer, and it works. They did not at that time have any medical pill-type cure that you take, since things like that are promising now. We were also developing a brain cancer for glioblastoma,
That's what you were asking.
which involved involved giving the patient a boron compound, which would pass through the blood-brain barrier easier than most things do, because that's why it's a barrier to keep foreign stuff out of the brain. But this boron compound would go into the brain and preferentially accumulate in the glioblastoma. And then you irradiate the patient's head with neutrons, and the neutrons hit the boron. The boron basically splits apart, and in doing so kills the cancer cell. And we had connections with a Japanese physicist who was doing the same thing with Hitachi Heavy Industries had a reactor, and he was using that, and we were using the Atlanta research reactor for that purpose. And the third thing was liver cancer, where we were irradiating the inside of the liver with beta particles, which you inject little tiny glass microspheres made of a special compound, which could be made radioactive, and you inject these into the artery that goes into the kidneys. The liver. And it would go into the liver and lodge in the capillaries and irradiate the liver. There's cancer in there. And that didn't. Well, we had three things on the pot, but we only had money enough for one.
Mm-hmm.
And so we concentrated on the brachytherapy, the prostate cancer. And at the time, we had one person a celebrity who we cured of prostate cancer, and his name was Rudy Giuliani. I have
That's
since.
pretty impressive.
We also did the work on the brain tumors and glioblastomas, and we worked with Hatanaka, and it was promising work, but it needed a lot more areas because you had to get the right neutron spectrum and at the speed of the neutrons worked.
Have they followed through with that?
Sorry?
Has anyone followed through with that? I know you were asking me about them.
We sold our process, or we licensed it to Atomic Energy of Canada Limited. Canada took it up, and the Idaho National Engineering Lab also is working on it, but it has not been developed into usable therapy yet.